I do have a question though.
Yeah.
You talked about smoking and that facilitating this part of the process, and now you want to be done with it. But don't you feel like it was a tool that helped you have that thought, and do you not want to use it as a tool anymore? Because I know we've had discussions before about it helping creative things, and you're such a highly creative person. I don't think you need it. I don't think anybody else needs it. Yeah. But I really think it helps open up. I feel like sometimes, or an analogy, like smoking, like being regular, you're like fishing, trying to get ideas. And then sometimes when you smoke, instead of just having one fishing line, you have a whole fishing boat, and it helps you, or a big net, and it helps you capture ideas. Sometimes you catch a lot of crap, you know what I mean? Yeah. When you're stoned, but you get a lot more ideas. And I just love ideas. And I think that's part of the reason why. Yeah. But I'm being told, my inner self is telling me I need to take a break from it. Yeah. So I might do a thing like I did with alcohol and just chill with it for a while.
Well, let me share my thoughts with you to respond to that question, because maybe there's something here that could help you.
Me. Yeah.
Because what you described is essentially the argument I've had with myself the whole time. I've been arguing for and against it. It's like, well, I've certainly been someone who's been fairly hyper productive even when I've been a total stoner. But in context with the meditation journey, and I think deepening my sensitivity to understanding reality and expanding the container in which I can hold information and all that, the first part of it is, don't you feel that it has facilitated a lot of these shifts in consciousness? And I do agree with you. I do think that marijuana and my experience with psychedelics has certainly facilitated this journey. However, like in the spirit of words I believe Terence McKenna has said, there's going to be a point where these things tell you it's time to hang up the phone. And I feel like I have been getting that hang up the phone message since about 2018. If not 2017. Like 2017 is like, maybe you should hang up the phone. And I think I got some pretty clear, like at the peak of some really intense mushroom induced trips and even some DMT. It's like, stop doing this. You are pushing it too far. Yep. And so I feel like I've been receiving that. And then of course, starting in 2020 I never had panic attacks from weed. And then I started having those, and what I describe as a psychotic break. And
I have the same experience. That's why I don't. But I was gonna just come back to that. I think I have some loved ones in my life that also experiment with, DMT and psychedelics and mushrooms. And I think what happens essentially is you become so ungrounded. So if you think of a DMT trip, you're gone. It's like you're sucked right out of your physical body. And then you receive this information that you find just so... You could never bring it back. You could never bring that information back to do anything with it, because it just doesn't click. You know what I mean? You're so ungrounded. You don't have any grounded place down here that whatever it is that you receive where you are, you can't bring with you. You can never describe it to someone. You can never explain it to somebody. You're completely ungrounded. And I think that's why people start getting the message. You really got to calm down on this, because you're going to become so ungrounded that you could absolutely have a psychotic break, because without the groundedness of the physical reality of understanding how that clicks in, how are you going to, it's all, again, masculine and feminine. Feminine, they always describe as that very...
Yeah. It's like you're overdosing on the feminine.
Right,
you go too far down that
So
rabbit
how
hole.
do you anchor it in the physical realm with the masculine energy? What are you going to do with that information? So you can only stay there for so long.
Yes.
You can only be floating in the clouds for so long before you're eventually just going to get lost and have potentially a psychotic break, because you don't know how to bring it back down. How do you become... It's hard. I've gone into spaces where I'm like, I remember there was one time I was like in my apartment on that third floor for like weeks, and I came down and I was like, whoa, there's like people, and like people are living life out here. You have to be able to bring it down and do something with it, or it's kind of like pointless. And we're here for a reason. We're here on this physical planet for a reason, so we don't want to don't want to go.
And so I think on that same note, like with slightly different rhetoric, I think it's pretty much this equation of these things have helped me at a certain period of my life to facilitate an expansion of openness, and to, I think, go from, because prior to my really in-depth use of these things, like my high school years, I was very productive, but not very creative. And I feel like I got more deeply philosophical and more conscious and aware and perhaps more creative from this expansion and this dabbling in neuroplasticity while taking the extreme neuroplasticity that comes with psychedelics. And then, the more manageable neuroplasticity that comes with the meditation practices. And I found certainly when I started meditating and then started taking psychedelics on top of that, that's when I started to find that this was definitely too much. It felt like psychedelics on top of psychedelics. Yeah. And I was like, the meditation is a good pursuit that's giving me the same sort of benefit at a manageable rate, and I'm going to continue this, and I'm going to let the psychedelics go. That's pretty much what my intuition has made pretty explicit to me a number of times, and screams louder every time I try to go against that and just experience cognitive dissonance. So that's the first part of that. The other part too is about feeling that in that same vein that they facilitate creativity and that they expand creativity in this thing, it's this balance between like overdosing on the feminine or, being more open. Openness is typically thought of as a good thing, but we can agree you can become too open, right? Because if you do that, if you overdose on the feminine or become too open, what happens is you become so creative, but your productivity teeters off. Yes. The productivity is the masculine element. And if you overdose on the feminine, you lose the masculine. You become too creative, you lose the productivity. And what is the point in terms of being a physical human that's interacting socially with people if you can't even share your creativity because you're too far gone, you're too off the rails, you're too deep into the chaos, you're too deep into openness where you can't even communicate your creative ideas. Your creativity is all in this metaphysical space for you as an individual, and you can't share it with anyone. That's been my experience of a decline. I have become more creative but less productive. And I feel like a lot of my efforts have been slowing down that train towards more openness and more creativity and be like, let's come back and let's implement some order. Let's implement some masculinity. Let's start putting more productivity. Let's balance out this creativity with some productivity.